Welcome, I am your film professor, and today we're going to look at what coverage is and how two big directors use it very differently. When shooting a film, directors shoot what's called coverage, which is a term that simply describes how the camera will capture or cover the action in a scene. Basic coverage is traditionally thought of as a wide shot, medium shots, and close-ups. One of the best ways to look at how subtle the differences in coverage can be is to look at two top directors who are shooting the same location with the same number of characters and the same blocking of their actors. The location we're going to look at today is the Quality Cafe, which is now closed, but it was open for many years in Los Angeles, and it was used specifically for film and television production. The first scene we'll examine is from Seven, directed by David Fincher. We'll see the first part of the scene, which includes the last shot of the previous scene, to see how Fincher both transitions to a new scene and then establishes the location and characters in their coverage. Now, the shot of Morgan Freeman here ends the previous scene. Then we cut to a close-up of a grill, which raises the question for the audience. Where am I exactly, and who is in this scene? Fincher answers those questions with the next shot, a wide pan right, which is simple but very effective. It establishes the space, and it uses the waitress to motivate our camera move until we land on our principal actors. Now, the motivated camera move helps drop us into the scene, as a character in the frame is motivating the action of the camera, rather than the camera just moving on its own. And now we will go into basic coverage, which are mediums and close-ups of our two actors. What's interesting to see here is how Fincher frames these shots. I know you're thinking they're mediums and close-ups. They're all the same, right? No, they're not. Notice that every one of these shots is dirty, right? Whether it's mediums or close-ups, meaning that the camera is facing one actor, but we get a piece of the back of the other actor or shoulder dirty in the frame. This is what's called a dirty frame. Now, this really works for the scene because in the story here, both characters connect with each other in this scene. So linking them together in the frame visually helps show that connection. Close-ups are rarely dirty, but Fincher uses them here to link the characters, which is what's happening in the script. This is another example of why Fincher is regarded as one of our best visual storytellers. So here's all the coverage of the actors in Fincher's scene. We have a very simple scene transition of the egg cooking on the grill. We're dropped into the scene with our pan right, which is a motivated camera move, and then we have simple mediums and close-ups of both actors, and Fincher here lets the performances play. Now let's compare Fincher's coverage to that of Antoine Fuqua, who directed Training Day in the same location 6 years later. Same location, same number of actors, even the same booth in the same diner. Again, we see the last shot of the previous scene to give context. Then we have a scene transition, a time lapse of the city, showing us the time has passed. Our first shot of the scene is going to be a shot of an egg cooking on a grill, and then we cut to this dolly right. Seemingly an unmotivated camera move. We get Ethan Hawke coming in, we establish the space, and more importantly in our wide shot, the spatial relationships, how far away these characters are from each other, and who's around them in the location. One thing to note here on this wide shot, it is 7 seconds longer than Fincher's wide shot, so taking a significant amount more time to establish the space. Now that we've seen the opening of the scene, let's go through it shot by shot, and then we'll look at the coverage in the scene and compare it to Fincher's coverage. We can see that we have a wide exterior first, which is a neutral scene transition, meaning none of the cast is in the shot. Fincher didn't use this additional shot, right? He went right from the bust of Morgan Freeman to the grill in the diner, which raises the question, do we need this exterior shot? It's perhaps showing a passage of time, but since the shot ending the previous scene was in the morning, and the shot after it is of a breakfast cooking, it doesn't appear much time has passed at all, so no new information is really given by this exterior shot. One could argue that Fincher's editing is tighter because it doesn't include this extraneous shot, getting us back to the stories and characters faster. Fuqua's first shot in the diner, does this grill shot look familiar? It's almost framed exactly like Fincher's. Is it an homage or a ripoff? You decide. Then Fuqua is going to establish our location and characters with this dolly right, where we'll land on our characters as we sit Ethan Hawke down across from Denzel. There are a couple issues with this shot. First, it seems like an unmotivated camera move, which makes it seem disconnected from the actual story. Instead of the actors motivating the move of the camera, we feel the presence of the director moving the camera. However, if you look really closely, you can see a small piece of Ethan Hawke way in the background outside the window. Ostensibly, we're supposed to be following him, which could make this a motivated camera move. However, it's so muddled that the audience isn't following that character. Second, we have motion from our extra here in the foreground, who's wiping his face and really drawing our eye. Right. Add in the fact that he's in focus and large in the frame thanks to his placement in the foreground, there's almost no chance anyone will see Ethan Hawke way in the background motivating our camera move here. Be careful of extras as they sometimes steal your shot. Once Ethan Hawke sits, we get into basic coverage. But by now, we know basic coverage isn't really basic at all. right? From the frames here, we can see that Fuqua is essentially doing the opposite of Fincher. Instead of framing the characters together consistently, he's shooting clean close-ups, which means the other actor isn't, quote, dirtying up the frame with a piece of their head or shoulder or back. However, this is also a story-based approach with the camera, because in this scene, the characters are not getting along, they're not on the same page, and they really should be separate. Right? And so because they're separate really in the script, tonally, they're separated visually on the screen. We also have some additional shots of coverage here, a couple wides that are used to show the action whenever Denzel is using his hands, touching his guns, motioning, so we can see his action, along with this wide-angle shot of Denzel on the table. Putting the camera low to look up at the character gives him power, and the wide lens choice exaggerates the frame, adding to his character's menace. With this much coverage, there are a lot of options for the editor here in post. You can dial up or down both performances, which in this case results in Denzel winning the Best Actor Oscar. The coverage here enhances the character. The only real hiccup is the trouble dropping the audience into the scene to watch the drama unfold. Overall, both of these scenes work really well and use basic coverage to reflect story and character. Also, since both scenes are performance dependent, there are no big camera moves, which could result in retakes because of soft focus or missed dolly marks. Both directors are simply letting the actors' performances play and not getting in the way. Sometimes simpler really is better. Just make sure you've cast well. I'm your film professor, and we'll see you next time.